What's up, you beautiful bastards? Hope you've had a fantastic Wednesday. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show. Buckle up, hit that like button, and let's just jump into it. And the first thing that we're going to talk about today is the kidnapping of a 16-year-old girl named Carol Sanchez. Now, according to reports, she and her mother had come down from upstate New York to visit family. On Monday night, they were out walking in the Bronx. But then, at around 11:20 p.m., the New York Police Department said that 4 men in a sedan, they pull up next to them on the street. And in this grainy surveillance footage released by police, you can see 2 of the men grabbing Sanchez and dragging her inside the car. You can also see Sanchez's mother struggling with the kidnappers before being pushed down. The car then drives away, and you can briefly see Sanchez's mother get up to chase after it. And according to reports, a woman in the area heard Sanchez's mother screaming, which continued for nearly 10 minutes. She went outside to check on her. She found her sobbing and screaming. And then, together with a neighbor, they helped Sanchez's mother and called 911. And then, about 12 hours later, New York authorities issue an Amber Alert. According to that alert, authorities feared Sanchez might be in imminent danger of serious bodily harm and/or death. Notably here, that alert was also met with some controversy. This in part because 12 hours is actually a pretty long time to wait for an Amber Alert to be issued, which is why we saw New York City's public advocate Jermaine Williams say, "Across our country and across the Bronx, across the city, black girls in particular are disappearing and no one seems to care. We do want to know why the Amber Alert took so long." And adding, "I know for a fact the type of response that often comes too often depends on what that person looks like. No more. We love our children. It shouldn't take 11 to 12 hours for an Amber Alert." Right, so you have this story blowing up. Yes, it's for a number of reasons. 1, you have this kidnapped girl. 2, there are accusations of racial bias. Yesterday, surprisingly, what we ended up actually seeing was Sanchez alive, unharmed, and free. According to a local ABC reporter, people first spotted Sanchez being dropped off at a park near where she was kidnapped. After that, she then walked up to the police at the crime scene and she was reunited with her family. Meanwhile, you had people watching all of this unfold on the street, people just stunned that she's reappeared. Or you had one guy describing the situation saying that he was looking at the missing poster. And then we walked up the block, she was crossing the street to the cop car, and I was like, yo, that's her right there. Right, so Carol reportedly talks with police, and as far as what happened, right, was she able to get away? All of this attention, did it make the kidnappers nervous? No, and according to sources in this interview with police, Sanchez admitted that the kidnapping was staged, saying that the idea for it stemmed from a difficult relationship with her overprotective mother, also saying that she had been trying to run away, and one of the big reasons police think she might have done all of this is that reportedly Sanchez's family was considering moving back to Honduras, where they're originally from. But Sanchez wanted to stay in the United States. Also, more specifically, according to the New York Post, Sanchez had reportedly wanted to stay with her 23-year-old boyfriend, who the Post reports is a Crips gang member who has once been arrested for murder. Police also believe that he might have been one of the kidnappers. As far as what happens next, you have police still looking for the men who kidnapped Sanchez, also saying they're considering charging Sanchez herself with a crime. And personally, I'm of the mindset of unless there's another crazy aspect to this story, yes, charge all of them. I mean, if all of this is accurate, there was time wasted, police resources wasted. It's already hard enough to get people to care about an Amber Alert more than complaining that the noise scared them or they're memeing it. But also, I haven't been sleeping great lately. Maybe I'm just a little more bothered than usual. I'd love to know your thoughts on this story. Would you like to see charges, yes or no? For no, is it because, she's young, she's under 18? Any and all thoughts, of course, I'd love to see in those comments down below. And then let's talk about the update around Tekashi 6ix9ine. Tekashi 6ix9ine, real name Daniel Hernandez, if you don't remember, was arrested about 13 months ago. He ended up getting hit with 9 charges, including gun possession, attempted murder, and gang activity. He initially pleaded not guilty, and then in January of this year, he switched to guilty, and then it came out that he was working with the government. And so he ends up being a key witness in other trials where you have these other guys being found guilty. And according to reports, he was initially facing a minimum of 47 years, though that was before his plea deal. And there's been the question of, well, how many years would he actually serve? And ultimately, the news came down today. Daniel Hernandez was sentenced to 2 years in prison and 5 years of probation. Though, when I say 2 years, it's actually just 11 more months, since they're considering the 13 months he's already been there as time served. Now, Tekashi's lawyers were hoping to get time served as a sentence, but ultimately, the judge said, quote, "In my judgment, your conduct is too violent and selfish to make 13 months reasonable." But also noting, your cooperation was impressive, it was game-changing, it was complete, and it was brave. The judge also at one point noted that he enjoyed the snitching memes, because sure, why not? Yeah, ultimately, that's where we are for now, and we'll have to wait and see what happens over these 11 months, and also what the hell it looks like when he's out. I imagine there are a number of people not happy that he turned government witness. But yeah, for now, we'll have to wait and see. And of course, I pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts around this? But from that, I want to share some stuff I love today. And today in Awesome, brought to you by Phil.Ting.com. And Ting, if you don't know, is the fantastic cell service where you pay a fair price for the talk, text, and data that you actually use. Right? So if you use less one month, you pay less. There's no contracts, overage fees, or any other carrier tricks. And Ting also gives you complete control over your cell phone account. You can set alerts and caps for each device on your account, keep your usage in check, and it's easy and convenient to move over. You can bring your phone number to Ting too. There's no need to get a brand new one. Plus, a nationwide LTE coverage means you'll get great network coverage from coast to coast. Also, almost any phone will work with Ting, whether it be that old flip phone to your latest Galaxy Note 10 Plus or iPhone 11 Pro Max. And with Ting, their customers pay on average just $23 per month for one device. So just head on over to phil.ting.com to check your phone's compatibility right now and get $25 off your bill. But yeah, main point, click the link, check it out, and enjoy. And the first bit of awesome is I wanted to pimp out friend of the show, Jax Film's new video. If you watch him or you saw our podcast together on youtube.com/aconvowith, he's been very excited about developing and doing this new live show, and he finally released a YouTube video of it. It's really good. I recommend you check it out, and I'm excited to see what comes from this. Then we got the honest trailer for Galaxy Quest. We had KSI taking an expensive taste test. We had Rich Brian going undercover on Reddit, YouTube, and Twitter. We had Markiplier exploring his impact on the internet. We've now officially gotten the teaser for A Quiet Place Part 2. Then Hi-Ho Kids gave us Kids Meet a former member of the Westboro Baptist Church. We got an Uncut Gems roundtable. And the final bit of awesome today is I wanted to give a shout out to old friend of the show, William Haynes. He's launching a Patreon today for his channel, People Be Like. Will, come in.
Whoa! What's up, you beautiful bastards? It's true, I'm starting a Patreon. Look, I'm stealing all ideas from SourceFed. I'm taking them back for us. I'm doing it. I saw what you did. I seen what Red Link done. I seen what Casey Neistat done. I'm making my own.
Oh, yeah, no, go away.
Please give me money, please.
But yeah, you can support him over at patreon.com/peoplebelike.
Please,
and that's
seriously, I needed help. Follow me on Instagram.
Go.
Please give me the money.
That's not.
I love y'all, beautiful.
This isn't
places.
what we
Please,
agreed
yeah.
to. Also, this push would have normally been connected to a podcast which we already shot out, but we've been advised by my legal team to not air that due to contract and stuff in the past stuff. So I think we can try again, be more careful in 2020, but I definitely wanted to give them a shout out. And if you want to see the full versions of everything I just shared, the secret link of the day, really anything at all, links as always are in the description down below. And then, even if it's brief, I want to talk about this news involving Adam Driver. And it's not that it appears that he's just continuing to crush it off the heels of BlacKkKlansman with the report on Amazon, Marriage Story on Netflix, he's closing out the latest Star Wars trilogy, but rather it's connected to an interview that he was doing earlier this month. And specifically, we're talking about he sat down with NPR, Fresh Air, he was being interviewed by Terry Gross, and then reportedly, he walked away from the interview. And initially, when the reason was explained, there were a number of kind of rude comments about it. Some writing, you don't walk out on Terry Gross, but there was also a swelling of support for Driver. And just to be clear, I am definitely in that camp. I relate to it very much, though probably on a lesser scale. According to the Daily Beast, Adam Driver walked out after expressing displeasure at the idea of listening to a clip of himself singing Being Alive from the musical Company, which is something that his character does in the movie Marriage Story. Now, a big thing to note about Adam Driver, and I'll say I was unaware of this until this report came out, Adam hates watching himself. So much so that Michael Schulman, who did a profile on Driver in October of 2019, described it as a phobia because it's that intense for him. To the point that Driver recalled feeling nauseous during a premiere of Star Wars The Force Awakens, that he hid out in a green room during a screening of BlacKkKlansman, and according to at least one source in these reports, this is something that NPR was aware of. Which makes sense because, one, Adam Driver actually did a Fresh Air interview back in 2015, and there's a back and forth between Driver and Gross where he makes it clear that he doesn't want to listen to clips of himself, and two, according to the Daily Beast, according to one source, Gross's team was aware that Driver prefers not to listen to recordings of himself, though they also note that they encouraged him to remove his headphones while any clips played back. With Danny Miller, Fresh Air's producer, also reportedly saying in an email, "We don't really understand why he left. We were looking forward to the interview. Terry thinks he's a terrific actor." And so with all of that said, really as far as my reaction, I get it. I can't fault Driver here. Genuinely, my least favorite part of this job is watching back clips of myself talking. So much so that even with how fast I naturally talk, I watch the clips back at 1.5 to 1.75x. I mean, I genuinely hate it, and what I do is so much smaller and a lot less vulnerable than what people like Driver are doing. Which, going online today, it appears he is not an outlier. Right? Seeing reactions from people like Jamila Jamil saying, seeing so many snide tweets about this, if the man has anxiety or a phobia, then let him do whatever he needs to do. Being a famous actor doesn't mean you don't have mental health needs just like everyone else. He wasn't rude to anyone, he was just anxious. Raul Coley tweeting, "This is a real thing. Acting is about finding the truth in your character, in their words, and in their actions. It's your job to play those truths to your audience. But then adding, no matter how good you are, there's always one person who sees the lie, you." Tim Nikolai tweeting, "I don't know if this makes sense to non-actor folk, but we really do experience incredible anxiety watching ourselves on film. Singing is even more personal. I completely get this." And finally, you had the likes of Monica Lewinsky essentially welcoming Adam Driver to the club, saying, "Good for Adam Driver. However, I also walked out on Fresh Air 20 years ago. Same with an onstage interview last year. Self-care is always an okay choice, especially if the interviewer has violated an agreement. But ultimately, that's the story, and of course, I'd love to know your thoughts on this. You think the driver was in the wrong? You should have gotten over it? No, NPR was in the wrong? Maybe you're somewhere in the middle. It was just a kind of an unfortunate incident that could have probably been avoided with better communication. Yeah, any and all thoughts you have, I'd love to see in those comments down below. And then let's talk about something regarding U.S. political news. And no, it's not the Trump impeachment, which everywhere else has it covered right now. As of recording this video, the House is debating it, and I feel like everyone understands what's gonna happen. Right, Trump's going to be impeached in the House, all of this dies in the Senate. But with that said, I wanna close out today's show with something that this whole impeachment proceeding will affect, and that is the election. Right, this is building up to probably one of the most consequential elections in your lifetime, I mean, other than 2016, which by the way, if you are of voting age and you are not registered to vote yet, fix that. After today's show or right now, go to vote.org. There you can register to vote. You can get your absentee ballot. You can get election reminders. Also, very important, check your registration. And part of the reason I'm saying that last one specifically is important is thanks to this news coming out of Georgia. A federal judge has now given the Secretary of State's office in Georgia the okay to take over 300,000 registered voters off the list, which is around 4% of Georgia's registered voters. Now, these voters were reportedly removed from the registry because they were considered inactive. And when the office of the Secretary of State of Georgia announced this plan over a month ago, they said these updates are required by federal and state law in order to ensure that the state has the most up-to-date voter information. And that is true. These kinds of updates are required by all states, but as the Atlanta Journal-Constitution pointed out, Georgia has generally stricter rules than others, noting that it is one of the 9 use it or lose it states, which allows for voters to be removed if they have not voted in a certain amount of time. And the Secretary of State's announcement broke down what makes a voter inactive, explaining that over 108,000 people on the list filed a change of address showing they had moved to a different county or state. Over 84,000 had election mail returned as undeliverable. And then finally, what has become the most controversial element of the list is the over 120,000 people who have had no contact with their county election officials since prior to the 2012 election, meaning those people have not voted, updated their registration, signed a petition, or requested a ballot since then. And in a statement, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger said, "Election security is my top priority. Accurate and up-to-date voter rolls are vital to secure elections. But at the same time, I want to ensure that anyone potentially affected by this routine process has notice and opportunity to update their information." Right, and with this, they said that anyone can search the list of registrations subject to cancellation, with the list of names officially going through yesterday at 309,000. Now, Georgia isn't the only state to make a recent move like this. Just a few days ago in Wisconsin, a judge ordered 234,000 voters be wiped from the list, though the Attorney General there is working to appeal this. Though, of course, it's important to note in Georgia specifically, this is a much more sensitive and polarizing issue. This in part because of the highly contested 2018 gubernatorial race that gained a lot of national attention. Right, you had Democrat Stacey Abrams losing to Republican Brian Kemp, losing by just 1.4%. A number of Abrams supporters calling it a stolen election. This because she and many others believe that voter suppression and purges at the hands of the GOP played a heavy role in the outcome, specifically when it came to Kemp, who was Secretary of State at the time, overseeing the state's elections and not recusing himself. And connected to that, Kemp is actually being investigated for potential voter suppression, with the Secretary of State also being asked to provide documentation for it as well. Right, so because of the past, and also because Georgia's governor, Secretary of State, and many other officials are Republicans, some see this as an effort to sort of kind of maintain control. And so we've seen a number of Democratic politicians condemning this. People like presidential candidate Bernie Sanders saying, "To Republican officials in Georgia and Wisconsin who are too cowardly to engage in free and fair elections, I say get out of politics and get another job." With Senator and former candidate Kamala Harris also saying, "Hundreds of thousands of voters are set to be purged from voter rolls in Wisconsin and Georgia. This is a shameful attempt at voter suppression by GOP lawmakers to rig the system in their favor. We have to fight this." Now with this story, what I'll say as far as my opinion, one, I personally think that the use it or lose it policy is stupid. I feel like getting people to vote in this country is so hard that there's no reason to penalize people for past inaction. Two, I will say I have concerns about people being removed in general. This because remember I said there were 309,000 names that were taken off the list? There were actually 4,000 more names that were on that list when it was put out in October. But according to reports, the notifications and other outreach efforts, including text messages to voters from 4 Democratic presidential candidates, appeared to have saved about 4,000 voter registrations from cancellation, with several voters saying in court documents filed by Fair Fight that their names shouldn't have appeared on the state's cancellation list, with one noting, "I voted in the 2016 presidential election and have lived at my address for over 18 years. I do not understand why I was included on the list of voters who are inactive and might be removed from the rolls." Right, so seeing examples like that, that's concerning. But also 3, I think it's important to note if people are kind of talking about targeted bias. At the very least, according to an analysis by the AJC, the cancellation list doesn't show racial disparities with the number of black and white voters roughly matching their proportion of the state's registered voters. Though, of course, that's only one applicable trait of potential voters. Right, and so with this story, the final thing that I want to hit on, I'm not going to go after anybody. And instead, I will reiterate, go to vote.org. If you've moved or you haven't voted for a long time, check your registration. If you're not registered to vote, take a moment to fix that. Voting is a right, but it is also a privilege that many in this world do not have. Do not waste your opportunity in whatever little way to throw out into the world and say what you want to see more of. Right? And going into a national election, I don't care if you're a Democrat in Texas or a Republican in California, you're like, it feels like I'm just wasting my time with a national vote. And to your point, I will say that's why I personally think the Electoral College is idiotic, but there are also many more local things that you can vote for that more directly affect your life. So get in there and vote, and also to help get this message out there so I can use her name and thumbnail for this video, I want to mention briefly Ariana Grande, who tweeted that she was just 1,000 voter registrations away from breaking the all-time record of voters registered on a tour. This because she partnered with an organization called Headcount, who say in the past 15 years they've registered over 500,000 voters at various concerts and festivals as well as online. And ultimately, I say good on her and others getting people involved, because more people need to be involved. And that is where I'm going to end today's show. And hey, if you like this video, hit us with a like. Also, if you're new here, be sure you subscribe and definitely tap that bell to turn on notifications. Also, if you're looking for more to watch, if you didn't catch the last podcast I put out, or maybe just missed yesterday's Philip DeFranco show, you can click or tap right there to watch either of those right now. But with all of that said, of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.